intervention, and I don't consider the fly zone stepping over that line. We don't want troops on the ground. They don't want troops on the ground. That would be counterproductive.
Well, much of the military equipment needed to enforce a no-fly zone is already in position. It's on the Mediterranean island of Malta. James Bays is there for us.
These aircraft are NATO's eyes and ears. The AWACS is packed with the most sophisticated cameras, surveillance and monitoring equipment. NATO maintains these planes are working as part of a counter-terrorism mission which has been in place since 9/11. But that mandate is a pretty broad one, checking on suspicious aircraft and ships. And in recent days, they've been tracked constantly in the skies near Libya. They've been showing particular interest in this Libyan aircraft, part of Colonel Gaddafi's VIP fleet based at Mytika near Tripoli. The plane, a Falcon 900, which flew from Belarus last week, was this weekend returning from Jordan. This recording was made of the radio communications with air traffic controllers in Malta.
NATO 07, go ahead.
Do you have any information on an aircraft with the Squawk 2017 positioned about 85 miles east of our?
7, that should be a Falcon 900, flight level 340 with a destination Mytika according to FlightNet.
Malta's airport has been hosting planes from at least 7 NATO nations. In the island's main harbour, a South Korean destroyer which has been evacuating workers from Libya. Military vessels from a number of NATO countries are just off the coast. With AWACS spy aircraft overhead and a fleet of Western naval vessels offshore, there is concern here in Malta, an EU nation, but one that prizes itself on its neutrality. A former Prime Minister of Malta told me he doesn't believe Western powers when they say they're only here to evacuate their nationals.
They cannot be trusted because if I were in their place, I would exploit the opportunity I have of the strategic position to spy and to do all that is necessary in preparation of any military attack. So it's not a question of evacuation only. They are exploiting also the circumstances for their own ends.
It's adding to concern here that this island's neutrality is slowly being eroded. James Bays, Al-Jazeera, Malta.
Tariq Yousaf's with us here in the studios, the Dean and Senior Research Fellow for the Dubai School of Government it is, yes, who's been here with us for a few days now. Thank you, Tariq.
Pleasure.
Looking at the military thing that you heard John Kerry, we've seen the build-up on Malta. What is your view on any sort of military intervention? The US has been very clear and said a no-fly zone is military intervention. We have to be clear about that. But is it going to work? Is it actually getting any closer to that?
I don't know if we're getting any closer to that. We've certainly seen a lot more reluctance and hesitation in the US in the last couple of days over this issue than a week ago when we thought they were heading in this direction. I think the US, having experienced some serious difficulty in Iraq and Afghanistan recently with military interventions and having its resources stretched, is probably trying to avoid any sort of military intervention. It's probably assessing what the rebels are doing on the ground.
It was pretty much being billed as the only option a few days ago.
It was. We also were told that all options are on the table, but do they need to go back to the UN Security Council? Is there sufficient agreement within the US political and military establishment to move? Do they need to go to NATO? Do they have enough assets? I don't exclude the possibility that the plans might in fact be underway, but we are not seeing the kind of signal suggesting that we're getting there and we're getting there soon. And that might just reflect the fact that this has turned into a very protracted, slow battle within Libya. There is no need, there is no urgency. The sort of bloodshed that was suggested a couple of days ago could happen has largely been avoided, although some cities have withstood some very serious casualties and some civilian casualties in particular.
Well, let's talk about what is happening on the ground, because we were discussing this just a few moments ago off camera. The idea that the situation has not really moved much, certainly from 24 hours ago when you were sitting here with me, and even before that. It's this back and forth, we're in control, no, now we're in control, and on top of that, a matter of who you actually believe.
Precisely. I think both sides probably have assessed well the various capabilities of each other. holding on to cities that the rebels have overtaken has proven to be more challenging, but they've managed to do it. I think the ball has been in Gaddafi's court in the last 2 days to try and challenge their grip on these cities. Some counteroffensives, hit and run. The biggest area of a slowdown, and I think that's where the frustration has been building up in public opinion, is in open terrain, the rebels haven't been able to move further west and close in on Sirte, close in on Tripoli. But the broad strategic lay of the land, as one would say, the east largely being in the hands of the rebels, many cities further west of Tripoli. How will Gaddafi try to score some strategic gains is, I think, the question that we're all been waiting for. And
quick word, if you wouldn't mind, on humanitarian situation within the country. We look at the refugees who've left, obviously, but you were telling me about issues of food shortages.
Yeah, I think in the last 48 hours, many more pieces of information, phone calls, emails, contact with the outside world suggesting that in some cities, food shortages could emerge soon. And this in itself could cause either further unrest, play into the hands of Gaddafi, or weaken the rebels. But it could also potentially, if it happens in the case of a city of Tripoli, further loosen the grip of Gaddafi. But we're seeing more and more signs of not only of medical shortages, but acute food shortages emerging. And with them, high prices, the inability to import. That could be an important dimension of the problem and of the crisis in the next few days.
Tariq, thank you. Going to talk to you again later on throughout the day. Tariq Youssef with us in the studio. So Tariq, talking about some of the knock-on effects there, the issues of food shortages perhaps. There's another one, a huge one, which is causing fears for the global economy, and that's the price of oil. 3 weeks ago, in a brief lull between Egypt and Libya's uprisings, US crude oil was priced at $85 a barrel, but look at it now. The attacks on the oil depots and the slow production in Libya pushed it up to a 2.5-year high of more than $106 a barrel. Same time period, Brent crude has risen from $103 to $117 a barrel. This is just 3 weeks. And as a result, stock markets are taking a big hit. We've seen today the Nikkei in Tokyo down more than 2%, and Australia's benchmark ASX 200 down by about 1% as well. That's Asia trading, European markets coming online soon. In Spain, for example, there are fears of a shortage in the oil supply due to the unrest in Libya. It's caused the government to take some innovative measures. Sonia Gallego has more on that.
There's a change of pace happening on highways throughout Spain. Across the country, drivers are being encouraged to ease off the pedal, and it's all in aid of conserving energy. The unrest and uprisings experienced in oil-rich Arab countries have meant a surge in the price of petroleum, spelling trouble for countries dependent on imports.
Well, we are pretty sure, because we have made a lot of studies on dealing with this problem, and our conclusion is that we save at least 0.7 liters per 100 kilometers.
Around 80% of the country's energy relies on imported oil and gas. That's a fifth above the average for the entire European Union. So for the next 4 months, the speed limit on Spain's highways goes down from 120 kilometers per hour to 110. That, says the government, will reduce oil imports by 5%, saving the country just over $3 billion.
Well, Libyan oil currently accounts for just over 13% of Spain's demand. And while Spain's oil supplies are in no